You're tuned in to Fork Podcast. These are the COVID quarantine editions. These podcasts are to help people with their mindset, health, and fitness during the lockdown. Literally every industry and individual is at a fork in the road. And these are the stories of the people sharing their experience and vision of how we can emerge better. This is part one of our discussion with fitness and strength coaches Julia Balit and Nathan Zentner. They share their personal and professional challenges in the COVID-19 disruption.
Big Nathan, he's on now. We're all in.
What's going on, guys?
Hi, good. How about you, bud?
Yeah, we're good. Can't complain.
Yeah.
Julia?
Pretty good, pretty good.
So what I want to do with you guys while I've got you both on this, I'd like to share mostly about right now. I'm sort of calling this the COVID quarantine episodes, because the whole idea is I want to talk about how we can see our field or our expertise and how we hope to emerge out of this period, this that has really sent us all redefining how we do things. And I wanted to share it with people and say, listen, man, we're going through it as trainers, as coaches, and we have our own challenges with our own physical fitness and our own goals and our own eating and all of these things. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge as a fitness coach right now with COVID?
Honestly, I think it was just kind of, like you said, reevaluating how we were going to go through this entire process. Initially in the beginning, I had a bit of a panic attack. I freaked out. But when you reach out to your clients and check in on them, I think the biggest challenge was that not everyone had that same motivation, whether it was because they're parents and they have to tend to their kids during this time, or if they're a student and they're going into finals and everything is online. So, or just, being at home, I think it's the first time for a lot of us where we've had this much time on our hands. And so you kind of sometimes just end up sinking into the couch and becoming a couch potato, and that motivation is totally gone. So for me, what I did is I kind of just put it out there. I was like, listen, if you want to train, I'm here for you. We can do it over FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. I offered the first session free if they wanted to try it out, see how they liked it. And then moving forward, we would work out a price depending on how many times a week they wanted to train. So I think just the financial aspect of this entire thing, was really scary at first, because it was well, the gyms are closed, and in my opinion, they're going to be one of the last things to reopen. So it was tricky to kind of navigate through that, but you make it work. And hopefully as we, come out of the woods, things will slowly get back to normal, whatever that's going to be.
Yeah. Do you, would you like to continue doing some of this online work? Would you like to just keep part of that as your business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's more convenient for some people, and if that's what they can achieve in terms of getting themselves moving, I'm all for let's, even if we just hop on for 30 minutes and we do a quick workout in their basement or whatever, and then they go back to work, that's fine by me.
Yeah. How about you, Big Nate? How's that been holding up for you?
It's okay. It's been a challenge for sure. I think initially there was that lull where you feel kind of this might only last 2 weeks, so let's do what we can do for 2 weeks. And it's kind of you just kind of figure it out a little bit. But then once, that end date kept extending and extending, you kind of, I don't know, you have to reevaluate how you're doing things, and you have to understand that you don't have certain variables in a gym that you can manipulate. So now you don't have load anymore, because we don't have dumbbells, we don't have, machinery or machines and equipment like that. So we have to manipulate volume. We have to manipulate, time under tension, things like that.
Do you think people can stay in good shape without equipment at home?
I think so. Personally, it was exciting for me because I tend to focus more on body weight training anyway, and maybe some free weight training if they have that available. But it was cool. I was training one of my clients just the other day, and he is big on heavy lifting and using really big weights and stuff. And so it was a bit of a transition for him. But at the end of our session, he was wow, it's a different kind of burn to use your own body weight. And he was like kind of surprised, but he was excited about it. So I think it's cool. And it's a good chance for us as trainers to kind of get creative with what we can do with what we have around the house. Like I've seen on Instagram people using like those big like water jugs, or just like filling backpacks.
That's what I'm doing.
That's right.
I've taken this opportunity to really make a lot of changes in my life. And I'm afraid that people out there are spending so much time panicking and worrying or falling into lethargy that they're losing this incredible opportunity for self-reinvention. Now, with that said, Julia, have you ventured down that road of self-reinvention?
Yes, I wouldn't say it was to such an extreme. Like I kind of like took small things that I had been meaning to do. Like I know for me, one thing that I've always struggled with is actually like sitting down and reading a book. And so I gave myself a goal. I gave myself a goal of choosing a book. Actually, this one, I'm sure you guys have heard of this one.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Given a bleep.
Yeah.
And so it's a relatively small book, and it's a fun read. And so I gave myself a goal of reading one chapter every day. And 9 days later, I had finished a book.
So that was the subtle art of not giving an F, right? That's the one?
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, like I know for a lot of people, like reading comes really naturally to them, but for me, that was a huge accomplishment. And it kind of made me see like when you set your mind to something and you allocate that time, like you really can get it done. And we're so resilient in terms of like, when things don't always go our way, we find ways around it to kind of make it work for the better. You know, so between that and then in terms of like fitness, like I've been trying new kinds of fitness workouts where I follow different trainers and I try certain workouts that they do. So it's been fun. Like I've gotten into a little bit of a routine-ish,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's kind of cool.
Okay. Nathan, what's going on with you? What kind of self-reinvention do we got going on?
Well, I think for the last little while, at least the last 2 years, I've been focusing more on myself in terms of improving as an athlete. Also as a fitness professional, but, you know, primarily like the largest chunk of my day would be spent training. You know, that's
right.
just not realistic in these circumstances. So I think I've shifted gears a little bit and tried to start improving myself as a fitness professional and kind of switching the roles. So, you know, I too have opened up a book. It's, well, you know the one, NSCA, the beast of a certification that's been kind of looming over me for the last year since I like started it. So I actually started it now. I cracked it open and I'm a pretty good chunk of the way through. It's like super, super complex and like, you know, very scientific, and I find myself doing probably as much research on what I'm reading as I am actually reading. So it's really forced me to learn definitely in-depth fitness that I never thought I would kind of really touch on and that I was reluctant to kind of look into. So I think that's the biggest shift for me since this all started. And yeah, just, I don't know, I was outside yesterday doing different workouts outside. Got some rings, doing some muscle ups, whatever I can do.
Hell, okay, that's great. So you got some equipment to do the bigger lifts, the rings.
Yeah, I had a care package delivered.
All right, it's almost impossible to find stuff on Amazon. Like
I had stuff, that's why, but it was all in the township, so I had my parents bring it.
Oh, excellent. Well, okay, so COVID puts us in this environment where we're being forced to change. But in that environment, there's voluntary change that we can take on ourselves.
There's something to be said about when we're given an opportunity like this, instead of always taking advantage of it and like needing to be productive all the time, there's something to be said about taking a step back. Because I know that there are a lot of people who have been working nonstop, and this was the first time in years that they've had all of this time for themselves. And it's interesting because I think one of the things for me is that being at home, you know, I don't have any roommates, like I'm on my own, and it's an eerie feeling because you're alone with your thoughts, right? And it's like, usually it's go, go, go. I have a client, I have this, I have that. So when you're alone with your thoughts, like it really, like you're faced with yourself almost, and you kind of have to learn how to be with yourself. But I think that it's okay to also take this time to not have to be like, oh, I have all this free time, I have to do something that's gonna, like push me forward in my career when we come out of this. Like, not to say that that's not great, but it's also just as important to take that time and just kind of chill out and relax for a second.
Oh, yeah, good point. I like that. That last point about feeling like there's all this time, and what am I going to do with this time? How am I going to manage this? And it's that whole fear of missing out idea, right? Like we have this big transition phase we're going through right now. And just like when there's any disruption, we know that there's going to be emergent businesses coming out of this disruption. We see already businesses that are taking advantage of it and growing. And we as trainers know that how we manage our time and our business during this disruption will affect whether on the other end we're one of those people who say, yes, during this disruption I reinvented my business and now I'm a baller in the health and fitness field. Nathan, do you feel like there's any sort of apprehension going on in your head about missing out on opportunities that could be present in our environment right now?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with that a lot for sure. It's probably like my biggest demon right now is just allowing myself to do nothing. And I do a lot of nothing. It's something that really bothers me, and I'm not sure how to get around that. Yeah, I don't know. There's like that feeling of having to train and then not training is a terrible feeling. It's just, and it happens often. It's like, I think people need to understand also from a trainer standpoint, it's not because we're in the fitness industry that this hasn't affected us in terms of our fitness. Like, we're not at home, like, crushing it every day. Like, I'm not training a fraction of what I was before, like not even close. Like, I've started running more. Like, there are things that I do more of now that I didn't before, but this is like as much of a struggle for us as it is for everyone else who has a trainer or needs a trainer. Mm-hmm. I know you and Rava, one of my former clients, were talking, just, making a joke that, oh, like, Nathan's the only one that's not going to have love handles after this, which is like totally false. Like, if I showed you my snack cupboard, you would honestly I think you don't understand how many bags of chips and popcorn and like crackers, like, I stocked up because I had a moment where I just said, like, F it to everything and just bought all the junk food I could, and just, it got bad at one point. So I think it's an important takeaway for, at least for people to hear that, it's okay for them to struggle with it, because we're also struggling with it. Like, the fittest athletes in the world are struggling with it. Like, everyone's going through the exact same thing. So I think that's a really important point.
Well, I saw Julia kind of big, bright smiles when you talked about loading up on the junk food and going to town on it. What was that big smile about, Julia? It looked like you were relating there.
Oh, totally relating. Absolutely. No, I'm someone who, I'm very much like a creature of habit, and like, I tend to eat for all occasions, when I'm bored, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm like, there's always it's Tuesday, let's eat. Like, I don't know, that's, but so like, I kind of had to like think to myself, like, what choices do I want to make? How do I want to come out of this quarantine? And I know that when I, for lack of a better term, like, let myself go and I give into all these cravings, like, I'm just a very unhappy person with myself, and I don't want to feel that. So obviously I'll indulge every once in a while, for sure, but I try to be a little bit more mindful of what I'm eating, and if I choose to have something a little less healthy, like, I'll do like, portion control. But like Nathan said, like, it happens to all of us. Like, we all get cravings. We all just have a moment of like, F it, let me just go out and like buy $40 worth of McDonald's, because I do that all the time. So it's just a matter of like, I think, like, first of all, a big thing for me, it was recognizing, am I actually hungry? maybe I'm just bored. And if that's the case, and if I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm going to be regretting what I ate, then I'm going to just be like, okay, instead of eating, maybe I'll FaceTime a friend. I'll use this time to reconnect with a family member, or I'll go outside for a walk. But honestly, like, that's not all the time. Like, I'll have the occasional chocolate bar or 5.
I think the key takeaway, though, in this is that by you guys being honest like that, if people could just understand that you can have these slip-ups, but if your general overall behavior is normally on point, like you generally eat well, you get your exercise in, you prioritize those things, it doesn't have to go down this terrible path, right? It doesn't have to get so bad that you're now overweight, you're unhealthy, you have disease, a lifestyle disease of some sort. I think that that's the key takeaway.
Yeah. I think people are, it's really easy to like slip up on a Wednesday and say, I'll get back on track on a Monday, just because it's like,
yes,
like, no, you screwed up. Like, now don't screw up a second time in a row. Like, right away, you had a bad lunch, have a good dinner, and go from, like, I don't know. It's just this constant like justification, like over and over and over. It's like, this day because of this, because it's the first of the month, because Christmas now, and it's just.
Yeah, and I've got a bit of a beef with the whole idea. I wrote a blog post recently just saying that people are we're in a crisis, so don't be so hard on yourself. And I'm like, well, this crisis is a crisis of health. You want to be healthy so that if you get sick, you can fight sickness better. Isn't that a valid point?
Yeah, and I think there's 2 extremes too. You have people that keep making excuses, and you have people that take it to such an extreme where like they go on like juice cleanses, or like, okay, well, like for the next 5 days I'm just gonna drink my vegetables, or I'm gonna like restrict myself of having X, Y, and Z. And I think the biggest misconception is that they have this like diet mentality where it's like, if I do this for X amount of time, then I'll be on the right track and I can just like continue living my life. Where it's like, it's not like a 3-week diet is going to make up for, I was just talking to someone about this earlier, about like, it's not going to make up for 4 years of unhealthy eating. It has to be a lifestyle change if you actually want to get the results and you actually want to eat healthy. But again, like, even with that, it's different for everyone. Like, I know some people that they have to go cold turkey. They can't allow themselves to have any sweets. That's what works for them. For me, I'm not like that. If I restrict myself completely, I'm going to end up binging. So when I have a craving, I'll allow myself to have something to satisfy that craving. And then, like Nathan said, just get right back on track with what you're doing, like the next meal or the next day. Don't have to wait for the first of the month or the following Monday or after so-and-so's birthday, wedding, whatever. Like, just get it going now.
Very good point, man. Very good point. All right, guys, I think that's been some really valuable content. I don't want to slam it all in one episode here because I'd like to set this up again. Bring some new information to people who are looking to get their mindset in gear and be ready for when things reopen, right? We got to emerge from this better than what we did when we went into it. And thanks again for all your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
You guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.